Book review, Jack Harper Trilogy by L. See Barlow Pivot, Book 1, Parish, Book 2, Peak, Book 3, author L. See Barlow genre, supernatural horror psychological thriller dark fantasy in the sea of speculative fiction and supernatural thrillers L. See Barlow's Jack Harper Trilogy surfaces this rare, emotionally intelligent, and psychologically intricate saga. Comprising Pivot, Parish, and Peak, the trilogy follows Jack Harper, young, raised within sinister cult. As she unravels her identity, confronts metaphysical forces, and reclaims agency over her own life. Its tale that starts in the shadow of control and ends in the light of hard-won freedom, taking readers on philosophical journey through horror, power, and transformation. What begins as tense cult thriller gradually morphs into metaphysical meditation, blending elements of gothic horror, dark fantasy, and psychological realism. This is not story of good versus evil in the traditional sense. It is story of survival, self-definition, and the way to choosing who we want to be in the face of what we've been made to be. Plot summary, the Jack Harper Trilogy by L. C. Barlow is a dark and thrilling supernatural saga that charts the harrowing journey of Jack Harper, a young woman raised within a powerful and insidious cult. Through Pivot, Parish, and Peak, the series explores the themes of power, manipulation, identity, and the fight for freedom. Book 1, Pivot. Jack Harper has never known a normal life. Born into a secretive and terrifying cult known as the Organization, she is raised by Cyrus Harper, the cult's charismatic and tyrannical leader, who claims to be her grandfather. From young age, Jack is trained to be an executioner for the Organization, wielding her ability to kill with single touch. Supernatural gift known as the Pivot. The cult sees her as weapon, and Jack's world is one of violence, control, and unquestioning obedience. But Jack is not like the others. She questions, she doubts. Ultimately, she wants out. Her bond with kind-hearted boy named Tommy opens her eyes to what life could be beyond the Organization's iron grip. As she begins to resist the role she's been forced to play, Jack uncovers horrifying truths about the cult's origins, her family, and the source of her power. When she finally breaks free, it's not without cost, but it sets the stage for her transformation. Book 2, Parish. Having escaped the Organization, Jack tries to rebuild her life in the outside world. She's haunted by guilt, trauma, and the ghosts, both literal and figurative, of her past. The world, however, is not as safe or forgiving as she hoped. The Organization may be fractured, but it isn't gone, and its remnants are hunting her. Even worse, she begins to realize that her power as the Pivot is evolving, and with evolution comes danger. Jack struggles with the question of what it means to be monster versus savior. Her journey is complicated by encounters with others like her, individuals who possess strange abilities and fractured pasts. As she pieces together the truth about her power and the larger supernatural ecosystem at play, Jack faces betrayal from people she thought she trusted and must confront her own potential for darkness. Meanwhile, larger threat looms, an apocalyptic event tied to the Organization's endgame and to Jack herself. She must decide whether to hide, destroy herself, or rise up to stop what's coming. In Parish, Jack is no longer pawn. She's becoming player, one with the power to save or doom the world. Book 3, Peak, the final installment. Peak finds Jack no longer running. She's embracing her identity, her strength, and her role in the unfolding supernatural war. Her evolution into the Pivot is complete, but with it comes immense responsibility and isolation. She's no longer fully human, and those she once loved may no longer understand her or trust her. The Organization's shattered remnants regroup under new leadership with terrifying ambitions. Their goal to harness supernatural powers like Jack's and reshape the world. Jack becomes both target and symbol. Some want to kill her, others want to control her. With her allies dwindling and time running out, Jack must form uneasy alliances and face the people and horrors she thought she left behind. As the final confrontation approaches, Jack is pushed to her physical and emotional limits. She grapples with the moral consequences of her choices and the truth about the cosmic balance between life and death. Ultimately, Jack must decide whether to transcend her human past and become something entirely new, or to sacrifice everything to save those who still believe in her. The climax is explosive, heart-wrenching, and redemptive. Jack's journey, from tool of destruction to force of transformation, reaches its peak. The trilogy ends not with tidy resolution, but with hard-earned hope that even in the darkest of circumstances, the human spirit can evolve and choose the light. The Jack Harper Trilogy is a gripping blend of horror, supernatural thriller, and character-driven drama. It explores trauma and agency through deeply flawed yet fiercely determined protagonist L. C. Barlow masterfully constructs chilling but ultimately empowering tale that lingers long after the final page. Narrative style and structure. From the very first pages of Pivot, Barlow's prose is spare, sharp, and intensely focused. She builds tension with an almost clinical precision, creating claustrophobic atmosphere inside the cult compound where Jack has been raised. The writing style leans toward minimalist but poetic, using quiet moments and loaded silences to devastating effect. Rather than relying on gore or shock, Barlow conjures dread through psychology and philosophical unease. Each book in the trilogy unfolds with clear three-act arc: escape, confrontation, and transformation. But Barlow subverts conventional structure by grounding the supernatural not in spectacle but in emotional and metaphysical resonance. What makes this trilogy work so effectively is its restraint. The horror is never gratuitous. The violence, when it occurs, serves the story. The power dynamics are explored with nuance. Each scene asks not just what happens, but what it means. Character analysis. Jack Harper Jack is one of the most compelling protagonists in recent horror fantasy fiction. Her arc from indoctrinated child assassin to fully realized adult is staggering in its emotional depth and psychological plausibility. Raised by Cyrus Harper, the cult's mercurial leader, Jack begins the trilogy as blank slate, weapon shaped by ideology. But what sets her apart is her desire to understand, to see past what she's told and reclaim her mind as well as her body. In Pivot, she starts asking questions about death, love, truth, and freedom. Her friendship with Tommy becomes symbolic counterpoint to her conditioning. He sees her not as killer, but as person. In Parish, we watch Jack try to integrate into society while haunted by trauma and pursued by the organization's remnants. Her moral compass begins to sharpen, not by outside influence, but from within. It becomes fiercely introspective, always questioning the ethics of her power and the consequences of her choices. By peak, Jack is something entirely new. Not monster, not messiah, but hybrid of human and metaphysical being who walks the line between chaos and order, a refusal to be used. By Cyrus, by the prophet, or by the world itself. Cements her as truly original character. She is not defined by her trauma, nor does she erase it. She grows around it. Jack's greatest strength is her emotional intelligence. She is introspective without self, powerful without cruelty, and complex without pretension. Barlow never forces her into heroism. Instead, she lets Jack earn it. Thematic core at the heart of the trilogy lies philosophical inquiry into the nature of power and identity. What does it mean to be forged as tool? Can a person programmed to kill become someone who protects? What happens when you refuse to play the role given to you? Power and indoctrination. Jack's abilities, especially her capacity to pivot others, form of touch-induced instant death, are symbolic of the power cults wield, the ability to end thought, control narrative, and silence dissent. Cyrus sees Jack as his legacy. The prophet sees her as the catalyst for spiritual revolution. Both men are obsessed with control, with reshaping the world according to their vision. Barlow explores how these authoritarian figures manipulate not just bodies but minds. They weaponize belief, turning faith into violence and obedience into virtue. Jack, in resisting this, becomes a radical figure of self-possession. Death and transformation. Death in the trilogy is not a finality but a transition. Jack's powers blur the boundary between life and death, and as the series progresses, the line grows increasingly permeable. Parish and Peak dive into metaphysical territories, exploring afterlife theory, spiritual consciousness, and the concept of liminal existence. These explorations echo philosophical and religious traditions while crafting mythos uniquely Barlow's own. Freedom and choice. What sets Jack apart from other Chosen One narratives is that she chooses her own destiny repeatedly and at great cost. Freedom here is not abstract. It's tangible, messy, and dangerous. Jack must wrestle not just with enemies, but with the seductive appeal of power. She could dominate. She could become goddess. But she doesn't. Her freedom is not to rule, but to refuse. Supporting cast. While Jack dominates the narrative, the supporting characters serve as mirrors and foils. Cyrus Harper is a chilling antagonist, cult leader, patriarch, manipulator. His charisma is subtle, his evil coldly institutional. He doesn't scream, he teaches. And that's what makes him terrifying. He represents how ideology can masquerade as family. Tommy, Jack's childhood friend and emotional anchor, is emblematic of kindness and humanity. He serves as a reminder of what Jack could be if she escapes her past. Their bond is tender, tragic, and never forced into cliched romance. Sandalwood, a mysterious figure introduced later, comes a mentor and enigmatic guide. His knowledge of the metaphysical suggests a wider system beyond Jack's understanding. He adds to the trilogy's philosophical heft without overshadowing Jack. The prophet introduced in Parish is Cyrus amplified. religious zealot cloaked in mysticism. He represents what happens when power and spirituality merge without ethics. Each character is richly drawn with motives rooted in belief, pain, or ideology. No one is flat. Even the villains are complex, their monstrosity explained but never excused by warped philosophies or past wounds. World-building and supernatural logic. Barlow's supernatural system is grounded in metaphor and metaphysics. The pivotability isn't explained with pseudoscience. It's treated almost like an ontological fact. Disruption in the fabric of being. As the trilogy unfolds, the metaphysical world, souls, spirits, dimensions, becomes more elaborate, yet it never feels like genre bloat. The world expands with Jack's own understanding. What begins claustrophobic horror becomes cosmic horror, then finally metaphysical epic. The supernatural is never for spectacle. It is always in service to theme and character. Pacing and tone. Each book has a different tonal palette. Pivot is tight, dark, and insular. Horror novella steeped in cultic dread. Parrish opens the door to the outside world, blending psychological thriller with metaphysical horror. Peak is both mythic and intimate, operating on large spiritual stakes while never abandoning Jack's personal arc. Barlow knows when to speed up and when to linger. The action scenes are sharp, the quiet moments profound. Trilogy balances dread with beauty, terror with tenderness. Trent's narrative voice, sparse yet elegant, emotionally rich without sentimentality. Character development. Jack's evolution is masterful and deeply satisfying. Philosophical depth. The series dares to ask big questions and wrestle with their answers. Genre bending. Horror, fantasy, thriller, and speculative metaphysics are braided seamlessly. Emotional intelligence. Trauma is explored with compassion and realism. Potential weaknesses. Readers looking for conventional horror tropes or fast-paced fantasy battles may find the trilogy slower or more cerebral than expected. Peak in particular delves into abstract metaphysics that require thoughtful reading. The supernatural rules aren't explained in detail. They're felt. For some, this ambiguity may frustrate. Also, romance is deliberately underplayed. While there are moments of intimacy and connection, the series avoids romantic subplots, focusing instead on healing, trust, and self-worth. Final verdict L. See, Barlow's Jack Harper Trilogy is an unflinching, emotionally resonant, and intellectually brave exploration of trauma, power, and identity. It's a story that begins in silence and ends in thunderclap of agency and transformation. Jack Harper is heroine forged in fire, but she's not defined by it. Her journey is not about revenge or domination, but about refusing to become what the world demands. Barlow's ability to horror with hope, metaphysics with emotional realism, sets her apart in the genre. This trilogy isn't just story. It's reckoning, testament to what happens when a person reclaims the pen and writes their own ending. If you're a reader drawn to psychological complexity, existential stakes, and slow-burn supernatural storytelling, the Jack Harper Trilogy deserves place on your shelf.